It's a big day here on the farm. 8 weeks ago, we got these Cornish cross hens, and today it's finally here, processing day. Just want to let you know this is going to be more like a fly on the wall video, not a very in-depth demonstration on how to butcher a chicken. It's not really what this is for. This is our first time doing this. Now we're going to have some very experienced help with us here today, but this isn't about a how-to. This is about being here and experiencing this with us for the first time. I really hope you enjoy it. Now, one thing that's worth mentioning is as of about the past 18 hours or so, these birds have been off feed. We want their internals, cleaned out as much as possible. We don't want too much digestion or anything like that taking place. It gives just more chance for something to go wrong. So they have been off feed. Now if they scrounge up any kind of forage or anything in the tractor that they're picking up, they'll have some kind of fresh greens, but they're no feed in there. Didn't want to go 24 hours necessarily. I really couldn't go with the way the schedule and everything lined up, but that's where we're at for about the past 18 hours. And of course, like we talked about last time, the tractor is just about as close to the gate as I can get it. I can't really get it too much closer, and that way we minimize the amount of trips we have to take bringing birds back and forth from here to to our processing station. It's time to get after it. Halfway through now. Things are going really well. I'm really excited. I still can't wait to get one of these on the smoker or in the sweet pot. They're looking really good. I'm just really happy. We grabbed a few birds earlier and got an average of their weights like we've been doing each week. Really happy with the growth that we've got. I'm going to put the average weight right here. Now once the birds are bagged up, we'll get a weight, like a final carcass weight, actually what's going to be going into the pot. They will be a little lighter because most of these birds we've trimmed the wings off of. We talked about that in a previous video because I love chicken wings. Well, anyway, we got a little bit more work to do. Let's get done. That's 27 birds in the cooler and ready to be packaged up. We're going to wait until tomorrow to do that. Took most of the day with some help, good help. Yes. What do you think? How'd that go?
It went.
I think it went pretty well.
It did.
I don't think you don't give yourself enough credit. I think it went really well. Tomorrow, after we get these birds in the freezer, we're going to talk about some of the things that went right, some of the things that went wrong, kind of just recap this whole first experience, I think. And yeah, I think it went pretty well, but certainly things to improve next time. There's going to be a next time, right?
Yeah. If you get me a new plucker.
Yeah, well, we'll talk more about that tomorrow. Tonight, the next thing I want to do, and the last thing I want to do before I just completely shut down for the day. We got 16 layer birds, chicks. They're 9 weeks old. They were a week older than these birds. We're going to get them out of the brooder and put them in the tractor and start this whole rotational thing back around. But let's go ahead and get that done. As we were finishing up the butchering, I asked you how things went. How'd the day go in your eyes? And you did not seem to be as pleased as I was in how the day went. Now, I was really happy, but you caught me off guard because, I don't know, maybe we just had different expectations on how the day was going to go. I thought things went really well. Tell me why you didn't necessarily agree with that.
I was super excited. We had this plucker. I thought it was going to work and we were going to surprise everyone. And I think I set myself up of having that expectation. We were going to surprise everyone and this plucker was going to be amazing.
A backstory on the plucker again. That was given to us for free by a family friend. They had it for, decades. And I don't think they ever once used it at all. Talking to her and telling her what we were doing, as we have a goat and a cat together. This is great.
Notice the goat is smaller than the cat, just size comparison for anyone.
I was telling her what we were doing here and, trying to grow as much of our own food as possible and that we were going to be trying meat chicken soon. And she was excited to say, hey, let's pass this on to you. And we did a little work to it, took some cleaning, and I had to replace the little rubber fingers on it. There was work that had to be done, but again, I've never used it. I can't find any information about it. So the plucker was an unknown, it was just an unknown quantity. We didn't know what it was going to be. Didn't know how anything was going to come of it. You didn't think it went very well.
It went. I don't know how to explain it.
Well, maybe I don't want to put words in your mouth, but
it's not that it went bad because we were very successful. We did get 27 chickens in the freezer, which is amazing.
And we didn't have to hand pluck all of them.
No.
Yeah. No, it did.
We hand plucked quite a bit.
Yeah, we did quite a bit of hand plucking. Heather and Levi both thought that we were going to end up hand plucking all of them, knowing the story on our plucker. And I didn't really know what to expect, but I don't know. So maybe that's just a difference in expectations. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's something that we can work together to be better on. Is always communication and understanding expectations is good in a marriage. It's good in anything. And stress, butchering animals or whatever that may be, can put a strain on things. So having that all worked out beforehand is something that, I don't know, going forward. But the bottom line is we have decided that if we're going to continue doing this, we're going to get, the wash tub, more modern style plucker that everyone seems to use. And it just costs a little money, but having done this once, I think that's an investment. It's not just something that you're spending money on willy-nilly. That's an investment that we'd be glad to make for our family.
Let me clarify there. If we butcher chickens again and he wants me to help, we will have a better plucker.
I think that's what I just said.
No, you said maybe.
I don't think I said. Well, okay. we're going to have a better plucker, and that's okay.
Yep.
So with this being our first time processing chickens, there are obviously some things that we're going to learn. There are things that went right, in my opinion, in our opinion, that went right with this experience, and some things that went wrong as well. As far as things that went wrong, of course, we talked about the plucker, but we also figured out that if we're going to use this one at all again in the future, and maybe it's a backup or something, I don't know. You never really know how things are going to work out like that. It needs a switch, because we were having to plug it in and unplug it every time we needed to start and stop the machine. And that became a real problem. So having some way to either, like a foot pedal switch that you could stomp on and it would turn the machine on, you could turn it off that way, or something on the machine where you could flip a switch up or down, that would be super helpful rather than having to bend over all the time, picking that thing up, maybe having, gross stuff on your hands. You don't want to be handling a bunch of things. So that's something that would be, I don't know, beneficial. If we're going to get a new plucker, when we get a new plucker, that's not really going to be a problem, but it's just something to keep in mind going forward, and consider that part of anytime you do something, you find a way to take something away from it. That's something that we could improve with. Another thing that went wrong is we had a really hard time with our turkey fryer water scalder pot. That thing, it's the first time using it. It has some kind of timer feature on it that makes you, every 15 minutes, you have to crank that switch around to keep the burner going, or else it just times out. You get a ding all of a sudden, and your flame's gone. That's super annoying. I'm not sure if every new machine has that nowadays. I'm not very experienced with turkey pluckers, or turkey fryers, not turkey pluckers.
No, don't eat my hair.
So it's frustrating. We tried to come up with a few ways around it. Things I wouldn't necessarily recommend. I would never recommend you take electrical tape and tape around the switch and come back to the thing so you didn't have to worry about it. That would be a bad thing for me to do, to recommend, and I don't think you should do that. But it was annoying, so we did our best to work around that, and ended up trying to keep a mental clock going. And it worked out pretty good, because at least one part of that worked out pretty well, because if your water temperature in the scalder is too hot, you're going to tear the skin of your chicken, and you have to work and figure out what's going to work with your plucker and what's not going to. The first chicken that we did, we tore the skin really badly.
I tore the skin.
Well, I mean, it wasn't your fault. We threw the thing up there, and it kind of just, it didn't end up being very pretty. But I mean, again, that was the only one we did that on.
Yep.
And the good thing about having the water too hot is, with a hose right there, you can just fill it up with cold water, and you get that temperature to drop very quickly. So that's something that you have to monitor. We had a thermometer in the water. So that made things pretty easy. We were able to keep up with it pretty well. But between the timer and having that water temperature too hot at one time, if it's too cold, the feathers are almost impossible to pluck. So there's a really delicate balance that you just kind of have to figure out what's going to work for you. There are numbers you can find online. Try to stick to those, because it'll tell you where you need to be, but the more you do this, as you get into it during the day, you're going to find out what actually works and what doesn't work. It's just a learning experience. Just like everything else, there's things you learn during the process.
Within the day, there were a lot of things that went right, too, and apparently someone wants down.
Ricky did get to spend time outside on grass, and he's starting to graze. So that went right.
Yep. Ricky's got to go to goat tutoring, in other words, because he thinks he's a dog. But that's a story for another day. One of the things that went right, I know for me personally, I was terrified that I was going to be useless the day of. I'm a quick learner. I can do a lot of things, but I was terrified with Deacon being little and things, like I was going to end up not being able to do this. And part of that stemmed from the very first time we tried to butcher a chicken was a rooster. And, I have the curse of the small hands. And so my job in this situation is to clean out the innards, because, big hands won't fit in a chicken. And I could not get that rooster cleaned out. Now, so going into this, I was terrified. Deacon did great. I was able to wear him most of the day. The last 6, maybe 7 birds, he was tired of being in the carrier, and my back was killing me. So I ended up in a chair holding Deacon and just hanging out, because I had to be a mom in that moment. And it worked out fine. Everything went according to plan. But I was able to
Successfully.
Thank you. Eviscerate many chickens and got really good at it. Except the tracheas. I could never get the tracheas out for some reason.
That's no big deal. And of course, we did have some excellent help that were able to teach us. I really appreciate Heather and Levi at Sage and Stone coming over to give us a hand. They've done this many times, and although they prefer to raise rabbits over chickens, and on Butcher Day, I can understand why that might be the case, we did end up with a really good product, and we had great help and great teachers coming over to help us. So it's always good when you can get plugged in to, if you're trying to grow food in your community, whether you're trying to grow all of it or just grow a little bit of it, if you play around with the garden or just try to raise chickens or rabbits, whatever, if you have people nearby who are trying to do the same thing or similar things that you are, you don't have to, think the same on everything, but find a good supportive group of people. And with the internet, of course, now that's a great way to find things out. It's really helpful because you're going to find people, you're going to meet people, you're going to make friends that way, and people who can help teach you things, and eventually you'll be able to pay that forward and teach somebody else something. So obviously, the better help you can have, and we got a great product. I'm so happy. The birds ended up finishing out at 4.3 pounds on average. We had 23 birds that averaged 4.3 pound carcass weight in the freezer with no wings. So those are all hens. So, they might be a little small once our kids get older in a few years and we're eating more when we sit down to dinner. We might try to raise roosters the next time instead of hens, because just give it a try. But instead of butchering them at 8 weeks, we'll probably have to do that at 7 weeks. And even then, they'll still be a little bit bigger than these hens finished out at 8. So we ended up with, when all was said and done, not counting the wings and some of the other stuff that we decided to keep, we ended up with 115 pounds of chicken in the freezer. And that stuff is farm raised, pasture raised. We know exactly what went into it. The color's great. It looks so much better than what you can get in a store. So I would consider this a success. Obviously, things we learned along the way, and that's to be expected. That's part of why I love what we do.
And in the process of doing this and trying to use as much as the bird as we can, obviously anything we didn't want was going to go to feed the pig, Heather and Levi's pigs, so that's a good help to them. Cuts down on their feed cost. Stop it! Cuts down on their feed cost for a little bit, for a day or so. But also, they took the gizzards and the hearts, and I think Heather was going to can them because they like putting on them in mac and cheese. So I don't know about that. We kept all the feet and the livers, and we're going to dehydrate both of them for dog treats. With the chicken feet, we'll dehydrate them, and before we dehydrate them, we'll cut the toenails off of them because the dogs don't need that. But it'll be really good for the collagen and stuff in them. And once again, it's using as much of that bird as we can versus throwing it away or going in the trash. Now, once again, all of the things we didn't want went to the pigs. But we'll see how that works out, because we did keep the livers and the feet, and Heather and Levi took the gizzards and the hearts.
And they said their pigs cleaned it up. If you want to see more about what we're doing around here, you can click that playlist and be sure to subscribe to the channel. We've got a goat kidding season wrap-up video to come, a couple other things that we've got to do, and I don't know. There's always
Ricky content.
There's always plenty of stuff going on around here. We do appreciate you being here and being part of what we're doing. My name's Reagan, Megan, and
Ricky.
# Team Ricky. We'll see y'all soon.
Bye, guys.